So you're 40 days into a Chapter 7 case, and you've met with your bankruptcy trustee. The next thing is there is a 60-day waiting period. I call it a waiting period because that sounds less ominous than an investigation period to see whether you're lying, cheating, or stealing. But it is a waiting period between the time of your meeting with the bankruptcy trustee and the time that you get your discharge. Discharge is a technical term. That's the piece of paper you get that says you no longer owe your debts. Now your debts are forgiven. And people say, well, what if I sell my house? No, no, no. Debt forgiven. What if I win the lottery? No, you don't get it. Debt gone. Debt wiped out. Gone forever. There's nothing that you can do that will revive that debt unless you intentionally and timely reaffirm that debt. Meaning a reaffirmation is a signed paper that gets filed with the bankruptcy court before the 60 days after the meeting with the bankruptcy trustee. If you've reaffirmed a debt, say you borrowed money from your dad to buy your house or your car or whatever, and you want to pay them back. Well, you know what? You can just pay them back. Nobody's going to care. But if you really want to go through the reaffirmation process, you got to file this paperwork with the court before the 60 days passes after your meeting. So that's a simple view of what happens in the Chapter 7. The complexities occur depending on what your objective is. And so when I talk to people, I want to find out what their objective is. Some folks just want to discharge credit cards, fine. If they're renting and they still make payments on their car's not worth much, that's an easy Chapter 7. Oh, now we're going to lose that. If they have other goals like preserving a particular piece of property, it might get more complicated than that. If there's tax issues, they might get more complicated than that. But your basic mortgage foreclosure case is going to buy you some more time in your house for free. So not surprisingly, the best time to choose to file your bankruptcy case is maybe 2 days before the foreclosure sale is scheduled. It's going to stop the sale. It's going to require them to reschedule. You heard some of the earlier speakers talking about how slow the court system is these days because of getting 7,000 extra foreclosures a month. So you might buy yourself 4, 5, 6 months of additional time of living in your house for free if you file a Chapter 7 a couple days before the foreclosure sale. Now, on the web page, I've got various explanations. Instead of being all technical, I say, okay, because you owe. Okay, well, that's anybody in here who's a lender? Anybody come here today to lend money to people? Oh, okay, so I want to make sure I got the right one. Because you see, the second one is for people who are owed money and someone who's filed bankruptcy owes them money. But the first one there, because I owe, that goes through a little bit of what I was talking about the different kinds of chapters and so forth. So you're welcome to go there and poke around. There's some links to the actual bankruptcy code if you're one of those people who thinks that you can do it yourself. You know what? People do it themselves. And the chief bankruptcy judge in Miami once told me that he says, if you get the mirror in just the right place, you could do brain surgery on yourself. And there'd be people who'd be able to do it, but there'd be a lot more who would mess it up. And so if you're considering doing it yourself, remember that any citizen who can read can do anything that a lawyer can do for them. It's a question of how much time and effort you're willing to devote to it. And one of my law school professors said, don't get too uppity about it. He says, anything you can do, a person with a reasonably high school education who can read reasonably well can probably do it 5 hours for every hour it takes you. I think that's conservative. I think it would take probably to do a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, what would take me about 4 hours, probably take you about 40 or 50 to figure out what to do and how to do it right. And then you're not sure because it's your first time, and hopefully your last. Covered 7, 11, 12, 13. Okay, trivia question. If anybody is ever on Jeopardy and they ask you what Chapter 9 is, call me as your lifeline because I will explain what it is. Let's go through some other misconceptions about bankruptcy. Anybody here who believes in God? Anybody believe? Nope, nobody believes in God? Okay. God doesn't believe in anybody, doesn't believe in him, so it's all right. But I get all these calls, all weepy, that, I can't do bankruptcy because that's a sin and it's unbiblical and what they'll throw me out of my church. And I always go to this little prayer. I remember this prayer. I think a few people have prayed this prayer. It starts out, Our Father which art in heaven, Of course, in Ireland, if you said which art in heaven, they knew you were a Protestant. If you said who art in heaven, they beat you up because it means you're a Catholic. All right, so you start out this prayer, and then you get to that part and it says, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And I go, wait, stop right there. So you mean getting forgiven of your debts is a sin? I can imagine that. So we go down, and I can't help it. I read this darn thing. It's this Bible thing. It's got all these pages, and I try to erase stuff, but it leaves a smudge. And so some people say to me, oh, well, there's this proverb that says, the wicked borroweth and payeth not again. Wait, where's that? I open it up, and I read before it and after it, and I kind of try to figure out what it means. And then I go to that bankruptcy code. It's the only other thing I read. I don't know anything about anything else. And the bankruptcy code provides that a discharge does not discharge an individual from fraud, embezzlement, or larceny. Does that sound like the wicked borroweth and payeth not again? So anybody who calls me up and is all weepy about having to do something that's a sin, I tell them, there's a lot of sins, but this isn't one of them. What's a sin is if you have a nest egg, a 401k, an IRA, something you're supposed to have for your retirement. What's a sin is when you break that to pay a credit card debt on something you don't remember what you bought, and you're taking this rainy day fund, and it's not raining, and you're using it to pay a mortgage on a house that's not worth what you owe on it. So some folks say to me, bankruptcy is a last resort. No, that's not a last resort. Like hanging yourself in the closet, that's a last resort. Breaking into your 401k, IRA, those are last resorts. Bankruptcy is not the last resort. It is a financial tool that is used in the correct circumstances to achieve an appropriate result. To fail to do that is rather like saying, well, I've got cancer, but I've got cancer because I did something bad, or my parents did something bad. Well, no, we don't believe that stuff anymore. You have cancer, you go to the doctor, you get your treatment, and you're done. And bankruptcy is a recognition that there's financial cancer in the world, that you might be on the Titanic, you might be sinking, you didn't build the Titanic, you're not responsible for navigating it, you weren't the one who was supposed to be looking out for the icebergs. And so what are we going to do about it? And I said we, because there's no one in this room, there's no one in this county, there's no one in this state who's not on the same Titanic that you're on. And so we all have to kind of figure it out together. I will understand we're taking questions later. I'm probably not going to be here later, but my email address is on all those red things. I like red, as you can see. We got some pens and combs and shoehorns and poker chips and whatever else. No business cards back there. They were boring. I'm bored by business cards. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have by email. We also offer a free 1/2 hour telephone conference. You'll call up my staff and just say you need to talk to an attorney, either myself or my wife, who's also a bankruptcy lawyer, and we will customize your solution after we understand your problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And just to make sure, as an attorney, we always try to keep our record straight and clean. I just need to clean up one little thing that Kevin said. When he talked about that if you have a question and call him, that he will be your lifeline, he referred to the game show Jeopardy. It's actually Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis. So I just want to keep a straight record there.